The first time that I went to college was when I was normal college age, which was in the late 80s and early 90s. And at that time, I was a psych major. I was a psychology major. And my first undergraduate program was in psychology. And then after that, I went to work in a psychiatric hospital um, as an aspiring psychologist. And I hated working in the psychiatric hospital. I realized that that was not what I wanted to do for my life's work.
Hmm.
So enough of that. Um, I had completed my psychology program, but then I decided that I wasn't going to go into that field. So I instead started working in service industries, and I became a restaurant manager. And then when I was in my later 20s, I started going back to school to study history and religion. Um, and this time around, I was like, I'm going to study what I like. All right. So I started studying history and religion, and ended up getting a degree in it's my actual degree is called world studies, which basically it's like a combined discipline, multidisciplinary degree. So it really is history and religion and a few other things like anthropology and sociology rolled into one. But world
Hmm.
studies was the degree. The university I was at had a program where you could get a world studies degree if you took enough courses at all these different disciplines that are under their wider world studies program, like languages were one, anthropology, um, religion, history, and things like that. So I ended up getting a degree in world studies
Okay.
with the concentration that though was in history and in world religions. Uh, and
Was that a
then
BA? Was that a
a
B
BA, yeah,
bachelor's?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So far, I'm still talking about my undergraduate experience. So I did
Right.
2 rounds of undergrad. Then I went into the graduate history program. And what got me into that was largely a professor I had studied history with as an undergrad. He was always telling me, you need to be in the graduate history program. Right. So, okay, you see what's there. So I went into the graduate history program, did that for a few years, did my graduate thesis, which I eventually published as in the form of a book. And then after that, I decided to go into the social sciences. So I went into um, the sociology program. And under the sociology program, there was also a criminology program, which overlapped with the criminal justice program. So I ended up studying sociology at the graduate level, um, and I guess you could say I minored in criminology. What I technically am is a what's called an ABD, all but dissertation. So I'm not really a PhD. I'm basically somebody who has the equivalent of 2 master's degrees, or you could frame it as I have a master's degree plus PhD coursework, but no actual dissertation.
I
Um,
see.
yeah. And then after I had accumulated all of this um, backlog of formal education, then I started teaching. I started teaching at a community college and then at an HBCU, which means a historically Black college and university. And then I've also taught in the state university system as well. And along the way, I discovered the paper writing business. And I realized that the paper writing business was actually a better job than teaching. So I decided that I would work to make paper writing my full time job rather than teaching. And that's why I'm here now talking to you.
Hmm. All right. Okay. I have a lot of questions. So let's start off. So basically, you got a psychology degree, then you went
Mm-hmm.
back for world studies, and then
Mm-hmm.
once you were in world studies, your professor was like, "You might as well just get this history degree." Was it? Um,
He wanted me to go into the graduate program. I had a minor in history as an undergrad when I was doing the world studies degree. And there was a professor who was a specialist in Chinese history. He was actually from the United States. He was a white guy, but he loved China, and he was a specialist in Chinese history. He spoke multiple Asian languages fluently. He actually would work during his off season. You know, when he wasn't teaching, he would work as a tour guide at the Forbidden City in Beijing. So he
Wow.
knew his stuff when it came to China. Um, but he thought he was impressed with the work I was doing with him as an undergrad, and he wanted me to go into the history program. He says, "Yeah, we need good students in our history program. You should be one of them." So he asked me to join to come into the graduate program and gave me a recommendation, and that's more or less how I got into the graduate history program, which was a very good program. The graduate history program was an excellent program, excellent instructors, a number of classically trained professors, a number of professors who had attended prestigious European universities like the Sorbonne in Paris.
Okay, so hold that thought. I'm going to come back to that. So then after you finished that, then you went and got the criminology degree.
Well, I never got a criminology degree technically. What I did was I entered a sociology program, a graduate level sociology program that was I guess you could say a graduate postgraduate program, PhD candidate oriented. And I did quite a bit of coursework in the social sciences and enough criminology work for that to more or less count as a minor, a graduate level minor. I never actually did a dissertation though, so I'm not technically a PhD. I'm what's called an ABD, which is an Albert dissertation.